You can get a $1 million line of credit to build a house, a duplex, a quad, or whatever you need to build, invest in, and parlay your business if you pay attention to these specific steps that I'm going over with you right now. One of the biggest attributes that I had early years is the fact that I utilized business lines of credit to help me actually repair my personal credit. And for those of you guys that are sitting back and you guys want to scale, but just don't have the ability to scale because you have the missing links and the lack of information on how to utilize business credit professionally to help with growth, pay attention, because this video is going to give you guys the ins and outs of what you should be paying attention to. And it was an attribute to the growth of my business in early years when I first started. Now, I came back with a 460 credit score. My credit was shot. I didn't have the personal credit that I needed to be able to scale a business. It was extremely challenging. And when people come in and they say, Jerome, I don't have no money, my credit is shot, I don't feel sorry for them. And the reason why is because there's moving pieces to this game. And if you know those working pieces to this game, you can scale. And in early years, I learned that if I set up a business and I had what's called an employer identification number, that employer identification number with that business stood on its own 2 feet to start creating its own personality, its own person, right? It's a business. And I use it as an example saying its own person because essentially it's like its own person. It's its own company. It doesn't have a social security number, but the equivalence to that for a business is the employer identification number. It's how the feds track taxes and that business. And so you can go in and you can have that business tracked also with your credit. And so just like an 18-year-old kid that is going into college, credit companies are super anxious to be able to get them in debt. They're super anxious to give them credit cards. They're super anxious to put them in a position where they have accessible resources to debt, because that's where credit cards and banks make money, is off lending it. And so for a business, it's the exact same thing. It's like being an 18-year-old going to college all over again. And when you go in and you set up a business line of credit, you can go to your bank and literally within minutes, when you open up your account, you can ask them for a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 credit card that's not secured. And when you start establishing credit from the get-go, if you go in, listen to this. When we first started our business, I would go in on owner finance contracts, okay? And I'd pick up maybe a $400,000 building. And with that $400,000 building, I'd put a few $1,000s into renovating it. Then I would go in and I would either sell it or I would lease it. When I would sell it, I might sell that building for $600,000, $700,000. And when I did that, my gross revenue on my business credit was $600,000. And so the first thing that you need to do is you need to establish revenue. And for a lot of people, they're sitting back going, Jerome, I have a business with no income coming into it yet. That's where the buy land, build house comes into play, because I always tell people, if you go in and you utilize building a house, think about what that does for the bottom line reputation of your business. Now, most people don't ever think about this. And when I talk about this, there's two aspects to business, okay? Now, when you're establishing credit, people look at your credit based on conventional lending. Now, I know that most people don't pay attention to commercial lending, but consider this for a minute. You go in, you tie up a piece of land. You go through the process of getting the survey, the architecture, and the engineering that I talk about in every single one of my buy land, build house videos. Now, once you do that, you go to a bank, not even utilizing your own money, and you get a construction loan. Now, your first loan, you may not have $1 million line of credit. Remember, this is a 2-year game. Now, because you've been watching our how to establish business credit videos, which I'm going to recommend at the end of this video, so you can go back and actually work through the step-by-step process of building business credit, you guys go in and you start establishing business credit immediately utilizing your employer identification number, your brand new business, and your brand new bank account, okay? Now, you get a construction loan, not only pays for the bill, but it pays for the land. Let's say that that house is an $800,000 house. You build that house for $550,000. You have some debt service, some closing costs. Let's say that you walk away with $150,000, $170,000 profit. Now, when you go in 12 months later and you ask for the bank, your financial institution, to extend to you a business line of credit, month number 12, we're not even at 2 years yet, and they say, what is your gross annual revenue? You've built one home, ladies and gentlemen, one home. But it's not like going out and selling candy bars with the world's finest chocolate in the front steps of the bank, where you're selling $1, $2 candy bars, and you're selling $1,000 worth of candy bars. You're building a house. And when you build a house, you go in, you sell it for $800,000. That is your gross annual revenue. So think about it from the perspective of a business. Take Tesla, for example. Tesla is a business that runs in the red, meaning that it's never bared a profit, but every year it has what's called EBITDA growth. And with EBITDA growth, that means that one year it does $500 million in revenue. Then the next year it does $1 billion in revenue. Then the next year it does $5 billion in revenue. Then the next year it does $7 billion in revenue. That company might be growing and it's selling cars at a loss, meaning that it's functioning in the red, not in the black, not in the black. It's not on a green belt where they're making a ton of money in regards to profits, but the EBITDA growth is healthy, meaning that that business is continued to generate year over year, continued growth and continued increases in overall gross revenue. Banks love that. The stock market loves that. So what you want to pay attention to right off the bat is you want to sit back and say, what is my EBITDA? And so when you go in your first year in business, you're a 1-year-old business, guys, and you go in and you sell a home for $800,000. So they're looking at your EBITDA going, wow, from the start, from 0 months to 12 months, this business did $800,000 in gross revenue. And they're looking at the numbers, they're wowed by the numbers. Now, the second thing that they're looking at is they're also looking at what is the net revenue that property brought in. So they'll sit back and say, the property and the business run in alignment. Now, when they're looking at your credit, they're looking back and saying, okay, what is this business worth on its net revenue? And on its net revenue, if you go in and you do $170,000 in net revenue your very first year, when you grossed over $800,000, think about it this way. If Tesla made Elon Musk one of the wealthiest men in the entire world, and it's just an EBITDA positive business with no net profits, imagine what the banks are looking at when you have a 1-year-old business. Most companies don't make any money for the first 2 years, yet your first year in business, you have a net revenue of $170,000. Now you go to the bank at the end of that build and you say, I have a gross revenue for 12 months in, $800,000 in EBITDA, and I also have another $170,000 in net proceeds. You ask that bank for $1 million line of credit, they may tell you no, but they might say, we can't give you $1 million, but we'll give you $250,000 or $500,000 line of credit. Now you have some traction. Now you go in, you utilize that, and you go in and build 2 houses, okay? Second year, 2 houses. Now, we are on a marathon to do a 6-month to 8-month turnaround on 2 homes. If it takes you 6 months to build these homes and it takes you 2 months to sell them, that could be 8 months. Let's call it a full year, even if it takes you the full second year. Now, you have to look at this from an EBITDA and net revenue perspective, not a credit building perspective. Now, you're going to be asking your credit card company, the one that they gave you the first day that you were in business, for $10,000, you're going to ask for an increase on that credit line to be able to take you up to $50,000, $100,000. They might deny the $100,000, but they might give you $60,000, $50,000, $40,000, but it's an increase in your credit line. Now, it's probably a good idea at this point in time to go out and get a second credit card. Now, you're going out and you're getting what's called trade reference credits as well, where you're going to the concrete company, the roofing company, the drywall supplier, the plumbing company that's supplying your plumbing fixtures, your electrical company that's supplying the electrical fixtures, and you're just doing simple trade lines of credit where it's a 30-day payment plan like an American Express card, where you go to your suppliers, you get a revolving line of credit from them. So when you order a $2,500 lighting package from them, it gets delivered to your house, and 30 days later, you pay it off. But every 30 days, you're paying off your line of credit from all these different trade references, these trade credit that you're utilizing to build your houses. Now, they don't even run credit on you, but they'll ask for these trade references when you go in and you ask for an extension of your line of credit. So when you provide them the information to the plumbing warehouse, when you provide them the information to the electrical warehouse, the drywall warehouse, the suppliers that you're doing business with, and they all come back and say, yes, they're current, yes, they're utilizing us as a good trade supplier for them, and yes, they pay their bills. You get 3 of those, you get your credit going on, and now your company's EBITDA positive. You sell 2 homes, year number 2, you're at $1.6 million in gross revenue, ladies and gentlemen. $1.6 million. Most companies function in the red the first 2 years, and now you have not just a $160,000 profit, but now you have a $320,000 net profit in your second year of business. Not only you EBITDA positive, where you went from $800,000 your first year, you doubled your proceeds. You went to 1.6. A bank is looking at that amazed, going, you're a 2-year-old business and you doubled your EBITDA in less than 2 years, and you doubled your net proceeds in less than 2 years, yes, we will extend to you a business line of credit. Now, when you go in there, it might be a collective 2 or 3 lines of credit that accumulate to that $1 million. But if your bank gives you $500,000 to $750,000 as a business line of credit, then you have 2 credit cards with $100,000 and a third business line of credit from a random bank that called you up, because that's what they do. They solicit business to you, because once you're a real business, they want to know that they have their money positioned with somebody who's not just creditworthy, but EBITDA positive and also has net proceeds to pay them back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of the most beneficial ways to build your business, because now you're in a position where you don't have to go through underwriting every single time you want to take down a build. You don't have to sit back and provide personal financial statements and business financial statements, the grueling agony of going through underwriting every single time you're going to build a house. Now, for some of you guys, it might take you an extra year to do it if you have bad credit, or you're slow, or you don't execute in the fashion that I'm telling you. And that's okay. But if you have to go through the grueling agony for 2 to 3 years to get construction loans to get to the end result of what I'm talking about with business lines of credit, now you have a revolving door. Because every time you build a house, you sell a house, you pay off the line of credit, you go build another house, you use the line of credit, you finish the house, you sell the house, you pay off the line of credit, and you have this building revolving door of business credit that you're utilizing for growth. It's healthy growth that banks love to see businesses go through. There's very few and far from, but because this is a solid, strong, lucrative business, you, in the next 2 years, that's right, 2 years, can go out and function and run your business for growth with a $1 million unsecured revolving business line of credit if you execute the steps that I just went through in this video. For more content just like this, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to recommend on how to go in and build business line of credit video right after this. Watch it, learn from it, take notes, watch each of these videos 2 to 4 times, and make sure that you're always compounding your success.